In this series, I've created a bunch of videos that will lead you through each of the projects that I have listed on your syllabus, and I want to finish the process of creating all the video tutorials for you. So I see that I don't have one yet for this first one, so let's get started. This is all about sort of getting oriented in Blender, setting up this photo box, I call it, learning how to set up the lamp and how to use cycles render and render the image out. So that's a bunch of stuff, and let's get started. So here's the default screen in Blender, and I've said it in another video, but let me repeat here. In order to orbit, you press the middle mouse button, and that'll let you see around, front, back, side, top, bottom, etc. When you hold down the Shift key with the middle button, then you can pan left and right. Okay, and if you pull the scroll wheel back, you can zoom out and zoom in by pushing on the scroll wheel. Alrighty. Over here, when I right click, that selects the camera, and when I right click over here, this is the lamp. So we'll be getting into the camera and lamp in a little bit. So let's set up a box for this cube to set in. So I'm going to hit number 1 on my keypad to show me the front perspective, and then number 5 to go to front ortho view. And then I'm going to left click the 3D cursor just below the cube and then add a plane. So if I hit Shift A and add a mesh plane, and then I want to scale it, make it larger, so I'm going to hit S on my keyboard and the number 5 and then enter. Okay, so that gave me this fairly small plane here. And now what I want to do is, from the position of the camera, which is right now we're looking sort of from the camera position back towards the plane, the cube and the plane. If I raise these back 2 walls, that provides sort of an enclosed photo box area. So to do that, I want to shift over to edit mode, which I can do by clicking here, or I can hit the tab key and then hit letter A to deselect everything. Next, down under the edit options here, choose the middle button, which will select edges, and then right click this far edge and hold down Shift to click this edge. So next we're going to extrude them, and we're going to extrude them up on the Z-axis. Let me zoom out a little bit. So if I hit the letter E for extrude and then the letter Z for the Z-axis, and then just drag my mouse, then I have a three-dimensional sort of photo studio that I can work with here. Okay. Let me come back into object mode and right click on the cube and move that out a little bit. Oops, Control Z that when you make a mistake. Let me hit number 1 and pull that out a little bit this way. Alright. Good. So right now we don't have a lamp set up, and in order to see what the camera is seeing, I need to hit the numpad 0. So now this is seeing what the camera is seeing, and in order to move and pan and orbit looking through the camera, I need to lock the viewport to the camera. To do that, hit letter N and lock camera to view. Click this button right here, and then clear out some space, hit N again to get rid of this menu. Now I can orbit and pan and rotate looking through the camera. Okay. Okay, next let's set up the light. So I'm going to right click on the lamp and notice over here that the lamp is selected and the properties for the lamp are right now in this menu here. Before I forget, I'm going to come over from Blender Render and go into Cycles Render. And so by default it's choosing a point light. And just to show you how we can control things, I'm going to start out with a spotlight. And notice that we can see some rays coming down, and this is the size of the cone. So down here where it says spot shape size, I can dial that back if I want to reduce that. So here it is at 44 degrees or so. And I want to click Use Nodes here and control the strength. So we want it to be emission. And why don't we immediately go over here next to Object Mode and click Rendered just to see how bright the lamp is. So as we dial it up, we can get a sense. So I'm going to click that and say 1000, enter, and see what that looks like. It's getting better, so now I'm going to try 2000, enter. Okay. So the lamp is, the spot lamp is just missing the front edge of the cube a little bit. So let's see, I can increase the size here as one option and take it up to 57, something like that. That looks good. And the size is 0.1. If I want this edge to be softer, I can dial up the size and diffuse that out a little bit. Or you may like the hard edge look, so that's up to you. Let's see. Let me rotate the light in just a little bit. Well, no, actually I'm going to leave this alone. This is looking pretty good. Now, rendering. Right now we are in a viewport rendered mode, which is very crude. It's fairly low resolution and it's full of these little dots, which we call noise. And that's great for previewing and checking out what's happening. But when we want to go to a real render, I click the camera up here. And rendering means that we're creating an image with all the ray traced elements, creating a nice image. So let's see, I can control the size of the window here. I'm going to leave it the default though at 1920 pixels by 1080. I'm going to dial up the size to 100% though. And because I'm using diffuse materials, I use the default materials. I haven't set special materials in here right now. We'll do that in the next video. I come over to the right here, and with sampling I toggle this open and scroll down, and I'm going to use the default 128 samples and leave all these other values alone. So to go ahead and render this, I'm going to hit the F12 key, and so I'm going to pause the video here while this renders. Okay, that took about 5 minutes to render because I rendered it at full HD resolution. But you can see how much nicer the results are. And I'd like you to put this away in your portfolio. So in order to save this file now, if you hit F3 on your keyboard, let's see here, F3, and name it, let's say Project 1. .1, and then save as image, it's going to save it as a PNG format, which is fine. And then just click Save as Image. Make a note of where you're putting it in order to load it to your Google Drive. Now, in order to look at another point of view and do a new render, hit the Escape key. And that brings us back to the looking through the camera. I'm going to go back into solid. Well, I'm going to leave it here actually. So I'm just going to orbit around and pan, hold down Shift key, and do a new render from a new position here. You can zoom in, pan over. Notice that the world is in the background here. It's this middle gray. So take about 3 or 4, 5 different points of view, so we can see it from several points of view: backlit, front lit, side lit, top view, really low view, and put those images away in your portfolio. And okay, so that's it for this first video. Take care.